Welcome back to the Montana Minute. I'm your host, Zach Reamer. This is the second episode in my series on helping veterans, and in this one, we're talking about community. So what does it take to build a strong and supportive network around veterans? Well, we should probably start with the basics. If a vet is experiencing homelessness, it starts with finding a new home to be the foundation for improving other parts of their lives. Having a consistent and affordable home gives homeless vets the safety and security they need to then search for employment and build a supportive network. Rebecca Stancil works at the Missoula Housing Authority doing just that. Part of her job is helping veterans who have already found a home through housing assistance programs to start working towards their other goals, such as employment. Rebecca is going to speak about the importance of community, but first, I'll let her introduce herself.
My name is Rebecca Stancil, and I am originally from Michigan, and I had relocated to Montana after being in the Navy for 4 years. I was stationed in San Diego on a submarine tender in the 90s, and it was an amazing experience because we did have a chance to travel and went to the Gulf, and we really did see a lot of the world. It was a pretty amazing time. I just fell in love with Montana, and I wanted to gain my residency and go to school here. And so I ended up in Missoula and enrolled in the social work program. So the focus of the program I work with Missoula Housing Authority is basically helping folks gain employment or better employment and connecting them to services to reach other goals. So financial repair, addressing legal issues, health issues, really anything that they want to work on. And the carrot to the program is we can help them create a savings account. So as they're increasing their income and relying less on the subsidy from HUD, then we can create a savings account for them that grows over time. Starting to work with this program and working with the veterans, it was pretty natural for me because the opportunity to make that connection, I think it gave me some credibility because I'm a veteran. Even if they had served before I did, it was, you've gone through boot camp. You understand the hierarchy, the protocols, things like that. And I think they felt what I was sharing, which is almost could sound too good to be true, that maybe I had some credibility and they would listen to me a little bit more. And then when it all started working for them and they were gaining employment and creating savings, it was just a game changer in a lot of ways. I'm really proud of that, but I'm also, I would say that what I had seen is that sometimes the experiences with some of these, governmental programs isn't always positive. And so folks are kind of hesitant, whether they, again, if they're veterans and they'd served years ago or they're new veterans. It's not always an easy sell.
Working in this program, Rebecca has seen how starting with finding a home is an important first step.
I've had it where someone comes in and they fit that description of just surviving, moving from one city to the next, one state to the next, and they get to the point where their body can't handle it any longer. But when you hear someone say, even the basic, something that a lot of us take for granted is just the stability of having safe housing. One of my current participants said, Rebecca, this is the nicest place I've ever lived. And they're 60 years old. It's surprising, but it's also, I see it as they do realize that it is a really special space. And if it's making them feel good and feel like that they're in a safe space, and that's what it's all about. And, whether someone's living in transitional housing or they're living in a unit with their housing assistance, that's the starting point, is having a safe space. And once that's secured and their health is on track, that's the other thing. When their health care needs are met, then they can focus on the employment or their job training and utilizing other resources or other services that they need, maybe whatever their goal plan is with us. And then the other piece that's huge is the family reunification. And what I've seen is where you have someone that's just been living going from state to state, maybe working some odd jobs, living in shelters but not living in a stable space, and they've lost contact with all their family. If they've had children, it is just as important as the housing piece, I'd say, having that, being able to gain that connection with their families again. If they have identified family reunification as a goal, they have been out of touch with their family for so long, and maybe they were ashamed, maybe they felt like they had nothing to offer. Maybe it's helpful to talk to a counselor about those feelings and then make a plan within that goal of taking baby steps to reach out. And we've had veterans make short trips back to another state to see their children that they hadn't seen in a long time. Or would families come to Missoula and, the veteran will show them their unit and they're so proud, and it just seems like the families just, number one, they know where they're at after that long absence, and they can see that, their family members in a safe space and working through a program. Maybe they did land a job. They're ready to rejoin their family. It's pretty powerful. It just makes it all worth it.
So, as you just heard, after a vet is able to secure housing, they can focus on important things like reconnecting with their families. But what comes after that? Well, it's connecting to others and being part of a larger community, and that can look like a lot of things. And it comes down to playing on the veterans' interests.
What I have seen is a culture where there is a lot of veterans helping veterans, a lot of mentoring. And I have seen this where someone, has that buy-in, they've secured employment, they're feeling like they're ready to give back, and so they're kind of mentoring the other residents. Or if they leave, then they end up coming back and being supportive one way or the other. So when you're talking about community, veterans, whether they're living in transitional housing or they're living out in town, the idea of reintegrating into this city, this community, is important. So it isn't just, having an apartment and going about your business. After a while, you're going to be lonely. So I would say that program and others around town are really focused on trying to draw people out from their units, joining, whether it's a faith-based group or it's a group that's active or a writing collaborative, a yoga group. There's so much out there now. And that conversation comes up where they have their stable housing and maybe they've just landed work and they have that sense of a place to be and they have that down. And then they're comfortable enough where they're like, well, like many of us, we might spend time with our colleagues. And so they're working in a space where they might not have a lot in common with their colleagues. They have to find something else. Mm-hmm. I think drawing on what someone's interests are is a great place to start because it's helpful in this community. But even in smaller communities, you'll have groups that are involved in some special interests. For example, if you're musically inclined, finding those groups that, maybe there's a band you can join, or maybe you can start one. Maybe there's a book club. I've seen it here where we had, where a writing collaborative started and veterans could share their stories. If there is an interest of starting your own business, getting connected to groups that help support that. It really does start with the veteran sharing what it is that they really are interested, and then taking that step where they can reach out.
So that's an important part because once you have your own place, it's easy to isolate, and it really requires putting yourself out there. But that's not easy. So to help with that, Rebecca and others put on a couple of events throughout the year where vets can connect with each other, local veterans organizations, and even potential employers.
There's an event that's been I would say it's been very successful, and we've held it for 5 years now. It's grown quite a bit, and it's called the Heroes at Home Barbecue. And it started out with volunteers and veterans that worked in some key organizations here in town, where we, the idea of having a community-wide event to help veterans transition out of service, and even further helping veterans and their families in need that may have been out of service for quite a while. So we started out with an idea of just celebrating, and it just grew where we were getting more businesses that wanted to be supportive and all different industries, and then more of the nonprofit sector got involved. And now we have veterans that would like to be more involved in the planning, or maybe they're heading a nonprofit or for-profit and they also want to participate. So it's been a great opportunity to network, and it's all ages and all areas of service, and no one's excluded, and it's free. And then we've expanded to the Veteran Suicide Awareness and Prevention Run, which brings in a whole nother group of people. We do this generally the end of May, beginning of June, and we've done that for 5 years. And on September 28th, the Project Employment Connect event, which is a mini Community Connect event, will be taking place at the Learning Center, and it will offer free employment services to anyone in need. So we'll have everything from a haircut. We're working on gathering interview clothing. We'll have workstations set up so that someone can get help with building their resume or tweaking the resume. We'll have interviewing workshops, and we'll have professionals there on site to help address barriers to employment. So if someone has, gaps in their employment or a felony, they'll really be able to talk with someone to see how to best answer those questions. And then we're also inviting employers that have positions opened, and it's free to the employers. We're trying to be diverse with the different industries. This is taking it down to really helping those that are unemployed or underemployed make connections in a safe environment. And for whatever reason, maybe they heard about some training program, but they're hesitant to go and follow through with it. Well, we want to bring it all under one roof, and we'll have some food, because that's a very long day when you're going through all those stations and getting all those services and getting all that help. So that's September 28th from 10 to 3. And some of my participants help out at Community Connect and at Heroes at Home Barbecue. And, they love it. They feel like they have something to offer, and they're accepted, and they're effective, and it's really needed.
These projects are easier in bigger places like Missoula, but Rebecca says that all it takes is a group of people interested in helping vets to begin making connections for veterans in their community. Also, the more the bigger cities are involved to help share resources and ideas, the better.
The Veteran Service Network, again, just started out with organizations that provided basic need services. So we had housing and employment and veterans benefits and education and counseling services. So that's initially how it started out. And so I think that replicating the veteran service network model in smaller communities is very doable. It really just starts with, again, the basic needs. So in a rural community where you might not have a housing authority or a job service, it might be a church, it might be some folks that might be retired that just want to give back and be helpful. So I think the basic model of coming together, if you have the same interest, which is helping military individuals and families with whatever needs that they have, that's the root of it. But what we have all done is these events are being modeled in other parts of the state, and I think the bigger cities can help create these little networks. But again, it doesn't have to be a state agency. It can just be individuals that really want to be helpful. We definitely have also been, asked to be a part of maybe a planning meeting to say, this is what we're looking at, but we ran across this problem. So how did Missoula handle this? And it's pretty easily replicated. It's just the players might be a little bit different. I think, Montana is a small state, really. Geographically, it's huge, but it's small enough that there's someone bound to know someone in Glendive or in Libby or down in Hamilton or Darby. When you have someone that has those connections, and with what we have now, social media, even just email or Skyping, you can really share a lot of great information. So I think that the more that the larger cities are doing that, it's going to be a benefit to the rural areas, and it is happening now.
Though every veteran starts off with different goals and the results may vary, this hard work to create opportunities where veterans can connect pays off.
But the idea, I say this sometimes, if you could see the transformation, in some participants it's more obvious than others, but just that idea of starting from not having housing, secure housing, to setting goals, being open to suggestions, and having good communication and follow through, we've really seen some great success stories. And some of those participants they moved into home ownership. Like, they really utilized all the services they could to get them to a point where, they're pretty independent.
That's amazing.
It is amazing.
Some of the veterans who get settled into their community also give back to that community, coming back to serve as mentors for new veterans just starting the program. It really speaks to the power of having a safe, warm, dry place to call home, something that a lot of us tend to take for granted. Now, Rebecca mentioned getting vets involved by finding their interests and then getting them involved. Well, I met Anton Johnson, who works with an organization that has taken that idea to the extreme. That is the sound of Whitewater Rapids. They're not hard to find in western Montana, and Anton's organization, Extreme Sports for Veterans, takes groups of vets out on whitewater rafting trips, skiing, and a lot more. They're great ways to get an adrenaline rush in a safe environment. Now, we'll hear more about how that helps veterans connect to a community, but first let me introduce Anton.
My name is Anton Johnson, and I am a social worker at the Missoula Vet Center doing outreach to veterans to get them linked up to mental health counseling, as well as benefits referrals and all around just kind of education on what's available for veterans, as well as the Extreme Sports for Veterans kind of operations guy. So I do a little bit of everything when it comes to setting up events, getting veterans linked up to those events, as well as putting the word out on what's happening. So I was in the Army. I joined when I was 17, still in high school. Became a combat engineer. My job was to find landmines or weapons caches, help the infantry kind of get into areas that they needed explosives to get into, as well as blow all that kind of stuff up. So originally I wanted to do outdoor adventure sports. Growing up, I had an amazing outdoor adventure teacher in my high school. He teach everything from ropes courses, rock climbing, canoeing, and I wanted his job. And he wanted me to take his job. And but since I joined the military, kind of put a hold on getting my education. And when I actually started, when I got back from Afghanistan, I realized that getting an outdoor adventure degree to work in schools was kind of like a glorified phy-ed teacher. And the positions weren't readily available. My school was one of the few that's kind of unique that had an outdoor adventure program. And so I realized that if I didn't land in a school that had one, I most likely would be a phy-ed teacher, which nothing against phy-ed teachers. I love Jim. But I really like that aspect of, getting out and teaching the ins and outs of using our outdoor sports to, better ourselves. So I kind of explored some options and stumbled upon social work. So I went and talked to the folks in the department and kind of got an idea of what social workers could do. I started down the social work path. After some time of, doing the social work gig, I came across a pilot program that was just starting up called Extreme Sports for Veterans. And I was like, well, that's what I want to do. So I jumped on board, finished up the year of the pilot, and me and some of the other veterans who were working with the program decided that we wanted to make it a nonprofit.
At this point, Extreme Sports for Vets has been going strong for 7 years. In that time, Anton has learned about the importance of veterans having a strong and supportive community.
What role does community play with that transition process?
It's really huge. Being a person who runs a couple of nonprofits, works at the vet center, you see that it's important to make those ties again. When you're in the service, you have such a tight-knit group that you serve with. They have your back, day in, day out. And when you get home and you get out of the service, it can be really difficult because you lose those pieces in your life, those kind of pseudo family members that you've built. So starting a new community and rebuilding some of those key pieces can be really important. Partially why we started the Extreme Sports for Veterans is that you miss those opportunities to connect with veterans who've experienced the same thing or similar things to you. And when you don't have someone to talk to about that kind of understands or have been there, it can be really difficult to process and, kind of reintegrate back into society.
And Montana is kind of a place that people might come to because they know they can get some alone time, some isolation if they want to. Can you speak to that? Is that healthy to have that isolation? Is community a really important piece? Like, what's the balance with those things?
I hear it a lot that veterans, move to Montana because they want to get outside of, the city. They want to, be up in the mountains, clear their heads, be by themselves, which is, it's kind of a double-edged sword. It can be really, really helpful to be able to clear your head and get out into a safe place like the wilderness. But too much of that we find can also, it leads to isolation, can lead to depression, and, generally those two things kind of they're bad signs that, someone is not connecting where they need to be. So you kind of have to have some of that community that can support you and still connect with, as well as be able to escape into the comforts of being alone in the wilderness. Yeah, so Extreme Sports for Veterans, or X Sports for Vets, was started by a lady named Jana Kuntz. Now it's Jana Sherrill. She actually lost her stepbrother to suicide when he returned home from Iraq. And her mission was to try to find a way to reach out, connect with veterans, and then get them linked up with each other and services in their area to hopefully prevent, those isolation, the depression, the lack of adrenaline. And so by introducing them to extreme sports, you can kind of break some of those patterns that they're falling into, as well as connect them with other veterans who've served in similar areas. So it's primarily for individuals who've served in imminent danger zones of Iraq, Afghanistan, and the surrounding areas in support of those conflicts. And so when you go out on one of these events with Extreme Sports for Veterans, you're actually connecting with your brothers and sisters who've kind of kicked over the same rock, so to say. And you're doing it in a safe environment, the outdoors. And you're doing it with some guides who are really knowledgeable on their skills of, whatever the service is, whether it's whitewater rafting, riverboard, power hang gliding, rock climbing. So all those kind of adrenaline rush sports, but you're doing it with the safety of, the veterans around you. And another key part is you're doing it in a safe and sober environment. So a lot of times veterans can return home. They're looking for that adrenaline rush, and that can lead to risky behaviors, whether it's drinking or drug use, maybe driving fast, getting into fights, those kind of things that are not very positive. So we replace those with something that is positive, that they can hopefully fall back on and go and do later on with other veterans they've met in the community because of the program.
I thought that metaphor of kicking over the rock was interesting, so I asked Anton more about it.
So you mentioned you've kicked the rock over. Can you say a little bit more about that, what that means? That I'm assuming it's kind of like you've gone into this environment where you have to be hyper alert, and that is necessary for that job. That's something you have to learn. You're hyper alert in that situation. When you get home, you have to figure out a way to switch that off. But, you've kicked over the rock. It's not necessarily something that you can just turn on and off. And so having that outlet seems to be really crucial.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always say, you kick the same rocks as, your buddy next to you, even though you didn't serve the same time or necessarily the same area. Maybe one served Iraq, one served Afghanistan. You still kind of have those similar experiences, those that hyper alertness or hypoarousal, the adrenaline rushes, the high levels of cortisol coursing through you, all those kind of biological responses that are designed to keep you safe, but also don't do you justice when you get back home. Having that hyper alertness once you get back to stateside is unneeded. So, you're doing day-to-day stuff and something will remind you of being back over there, and it can put you into that, active state of your body trying to protect itself. And after a while, those levels start to drop off. And so you're kind of, when you're overseas and you're in the thick of it, your adrenaline and cortisol levels are riding a high, pretty constant rate. And when you get back and they eventually do drop off, then you get those spikes. So it's when we call them triggers. And so when you're triggered by an event, a smell, a sound, whatever it may be, you kind of get a spike in adrenaline. And it's just your body saying, be aware, be prepared to fight. And most time it's not needed because you're in the safety of the United States. And so the reason why Exports for Vets works so well is that we are giving them that rush of adrenaline, but we're doing it in an environment that they can expect that there should be a rush. And then hopefully the idea is that the next time they get a rush of adrenaline elsewhere, it isn't tied directly to a negative aspect of, I need to protect myself because I'm in a dangerous situation. It can be tied to something like, oh, this reminds me of, or my body's remembering the time we went whitewater rafting, and it was, pretty extreme and fun.
Can you maybe just say a few examples of some of the outings you guys have done, or maybe some of your favorite occasions?
Yeah, so usually what happens is we start our year off with whitewater rafting down the Lochsa, and we do it during the highest water, so it's the most extreme. And usually we can get about 30 to 40 veteran participants to come down the river with us at once. And that starts the season. Then we go into riverboarding, which is face level, kind of, you could say, boogie boarding down the Whitewater Rapids. And we do that weekly for anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks, depending on the river levels. And we do that down the Alberton Gorge. And then we do powered hang gliding, which is kind of like a two-person hang glider with 2 seats and a powered engine in the back, where you can take off from a really short distance in the airport. You can fly around, get to see the sights, land. We have a pilot out of Big Fork named Todd Ware. He runs Air Therapy Aviation, and he helps get our veterans out and flying in this open cab. You can look right off the edge and see the ground. And then since he's an instructor, he actually lets you kind of take over and get to fly a little bit yourself. So you kind of take the power into your hands and really experience that, what it is to fly, even more so than in a plane. It's more like being a bird because you're in the elements. So, and then, so after trike flying, we also, beginning of summer, May 5th this year was our suicide prevention ruck race run, our half marathon. And that's called the VSAP, or the Veterans Suicide Awareness and Prevention Run. And this year we had 420 participants get out and either run the half marathon, walk it in support, or they rucked it. So they put on a backpack and carried 20 kilograms of weight, like around 40 some pounds of weight in their pack. And that represents the 20 veterans who are taking their lives every day. And the whole idea is to raise awareness of veteran suicide, get the community together, and then the Veteran Support Network hosts a barbecue right afterwards, where we have live music, all the service providers are there, so veterans and their families get together, have free barbecue, learn about what services are there while they're enjoying themselves with music and whatnot. So it's kind of an all-day deal where veterans are showing up and their families are showing up early in the morning to do the half marathon, and they get to celebrate afterwards with this community event. A lot of times veterans' families want to be able to connect and do stuff, and they don't know the avenues to get in to do it. So giving them the opportunity to come out, connect with other family members, maybe drag their veterans with them. They can learn about all the services that could help a veteran or themselves as the family member, as well as have a good time while they're doing it.
Just like Rebecca was saying, getting people together for events like the Heroes at Home barbecue or an organization like Anton's can be the first step, and your sense of being in a community can really grow from there.
Well, it's the easiest way to do it is for us is word of mouth. One veteran meets another, or a family member of a veteran meets another veteran or family member, and explains the amazingness of getting out and doing these extreme sports with other veterans. it really sells itself. Originally when we had this idea, it was kind of like, well, let's do outreach booths and really try to, hit social media and all this kind of stuff to get veterans connected. And then we realized that it doesn't take much for word to spread on what the program does. And so we've been really successful getting veterans in, having them drag their friends in or a coworker, or even other veterans they just met that they can see are struggling, to say, hey, come out with this group. They're a great bunch of men and women who serve their country proudly and would really like to take you out on this outdoor adventure for free. Some of our events can be really expensive, and so veterans who might be interested in getting involved in one of these activities that don't have the funds or the means to make it happen, sometimes just getting them out for this event for free can open up the door, saying, okay, I might not be able to afford this right now, or maybe I don't have enough time in my life to make it happen, but I know that every year these guys and gals go out and do these different events, and I can always tag along with them. Or, after some time, maybe I save up and I can buy my own riverboard or whitewater raft.
The vets aren't the only ones who benefit. The impact goes all the way around, as you heard from Rebecca, and as Anton agrees. Community is a place where everyone is better off than they were on their own.
I'd have to say, all the key players who run Exports for Vets, myself, Steve Hale, we have Andrea and Weston. Now we're all kind of this group of veterans who are helping these other veterans. And I think we're the shining examples of what it can do. All of us have had our own experiences in the service, and now are using our skills and being a veterans ourselves to help these other vets. And I can't speak directly for them, but it's definitely saved me on many occasions, because just like many other veterans, you kind of get lost in life and you're not sure what you're doing. And having this program to help other veterans has definitely made me realize that I can make a difference in veterans' lives or in their families' lives. Spoken to many veterans who've gone out on trips or done, different events with us, who've later come back and said, hey, I don't know where I'd be without you guys. I don't even know if I'd be here anymore. And I've met so many people that now I have people I can talk to, or meeting you guys out in this event and then getting linked up to services such as the Vet Center or VA Healthcare or other service organizations really changed my life for the better.
The impact of building a veterans community is probably felt the most in the vet's family. It can be pretty profound, since it can be difficult for family members to understand why those triggers that Anton mentioned earlier can cause a reaction in their vet that makes it difficult for them to build a sense of community.
A lot of times family members, as much as they would like to understand what's going on, it's hard for them to wrap their head around. The other members in the group or the participants, they've experienced it, so they know what it's like to have those kind of triggering moments. Mm-hmm. And so when you can tie it to something positive and give them that rush and see the big smile on their face when they return home to their family members, a lot of times I hear that they seem changed, for the better. And family members can be some of the strongest voices of encouragement to get out and do these events. A lot of times a spouse will send their veteran over to us to go out and do whitewater rafting, and the next time I meet with them, they'll say, oh my gosh, you need to take him out on more, because he came back with a smile on his face, or she was just totally enthralled with this idea of connecting with other veterans and having such a great time. I wish they could be that person every week. I think, kind of just to retouch on that community thing, any veterans or family members of veterans who are listening, I'd strongly encourage to get your vets or yourself involved in anything, whether it's service organizations like the American Legion or the VFWs in your town, to groups like Team Red, White, and Blue or Team Rubicon, Wounded Warrior Project. All these different organizations are there to help veterans connect with each other. Exports for Vets, we're just solely one aspect of that community engagement. And so if you can connect to any of those different programs, you can help find those community or those pieces that may have been lost from your service. And in doing so, you're going to open the doors up to many other opportunities to get out and connect with other veterans. And most of them are set up to help support veterans in different ways. So if you're struggling, reach out to one of them, and hopefully that's the avenue that you need to take to get to where you need to be.
So again, that first step is crucial. Whether it's the Heroes at Home barbecue, going to Project Employment Connect event in September, or reaching out to Anton to learn more about going on a whitewater rafting trip, I hope that if you've been thinking about reaching out to someone, that you do it. Please be sure to check the description that comes along with this podcast for links to resources that you heard about in this episode. Thank you to Rebecca and Anton for speaking with me about this topic and for all the work that you do to help vets. And thank you for your service. This series has been made possible by Grizzly Writers International. They provide scholastic scholarships and financial assistance to University of Montana students, faculty, and departments, and they also host a number of community programs. You can find them online at www.grizzlywritersinternational.org. Shout out to Ira Wolf, whose music you've been hearing in this episode, and thanks again to you, the listener. Stay tuned for the last part of this series where I'll be speaking with some folks about community for Native American vets. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.